Hey students, welcome to another Mr. Ness screencast. Today's aim is measuring population, and here are your objectives. Please pause the video, look these questions over, and get ready to copy some vocab terms and take some notes. So in this video, we are going to look at a lot of statistics used in demography. Demography is the statistical study of human populations, and the people that study demography are called demographers. And the data that demographers use in their studies usually comes from a census, an official count of a country's population. In the US, the census is taken every 10 years and years ending with zero. So there was a census in 1990, and in 2000, and in 2010, and in 2020, and the next one will be in 2030. All right, let's look at these statistics that demographers use with the data that they get from the census. The first one is the crude birth rate, or CBR, and this is the total number of live births in a country in a 1-year period, usually divided by 1,000. The next statistic is the crude death rate, or CDR, and this is the total number of deaths that occur in a country in a 1-year period, usually divided by 1,000. So we have our crude birth rate, the CBR, and the crude death rate, the CDR. For the purposes of this unit, some of these statistics that I'm telling you about now are more important than others, and the rate of natural increase, or RNI, is one of the important ones. So put a star next to this one and listen carefully. The rate of natural increase is a measurement of the speed at which a population grows. So it tells us not just if a population is growing or shrinking, but how fast. And the rate of natural increase is based on the difference between the birth rate and the death rate. So CBR minus CDR. And if births outnumber deaths every year, the RNI will be positive, and that means that a country is growing. Each year there are more people in it than there were the year before. But if the death rate is higher than the birth rate, then the RNI is negative, and that means that a population is shrinking because more people are dying each year than are being born. And if the birth rate equals the death rate, the RNI is zero and the population is stable. It's staying the same size year after year. All right, there's two things that I want you to be careful about. The first one is that the natural increase rate does not include numbers of people who immigrate to a country. And that's important because even if a country has a negative RNI, it might actually still be growing if it has a lot of immigrants. The AP exam likes to trick you about this, so make a mental note. The RNI does not include immigration numbers. It only measures the birth rate minus the death rate. The second thing that I want you to be careful about is thinking that a low RNI means low growth. The rate of natural increase is expressed as a percentage, and it's always going to be a low number, like 3 or less. But population growth is exponential, and an RNI that looks low, like 3%, is actually really rapid population growth. And let me show you why. Doubling time is the time it takes for a population to double in size. And to calculate the doubling time, we use what's called the rule of 70. You just divide 70 by the rate of natural increase. So I said a second ago that 3% is a really high rate of natural increase. And using the rule of 70, we can see that a country with an RNI of 3% will double in about 23 years. 70 divided by 3 is 23.3. And that means that at this rate, the country would grow twice as big in just a single generation, which is incredibly fast. All right, so again, don't be fooled by RNIs that look low. The country that currently has the highest population growth in the world has a natural increase rate of about 3.7, and you're not going to see any numbers bigger than that. But 3.7 is very rapid growth. The next statistic is also important, and you should put a star next to this one too. And this is the total fertility rate, or TFR. And the total fertility rate is the average number of children that a woman in a certain country is likely to have in her lifetime. In the United States, the TFR is about 2, and I'm betting that many of you watching this in the US have just one sibling. But in some countries, the TFR is really high, like 7. And in others, it's very low, like 1 or less. Replacement level, also called zero population growth or ZPG, is the state at which a country's population remains stable. That means it's not growing or shrinking, it just stays the same. And for reasons that you'll learn about later, zero population growth is an advantageous state that many countries want to achieve. When a country is at replacement level, its population stays the same, so its rate of natural increase is, can you guess? Think about it for a second. If you said zero, you were correct. The RNI is the speed at which a population is growing, and if there's no growth or decline, then the RNI is zero. All right, here's a harder question. What would the TFR be to reach replacement level? In other words, how many children should every woman in a country have if that country's population is going to remain stable? If you said 2, you're almost right. The answer is 2.1. 2 makes sense because if a mommy and a daddy make 2 babies, those babies will grow up to replace mommy and daddy when mommy and daddy die. And the reason it's 2.1 and not 2 is because there's a slight statistical probability that more girls will be born than boys. So you need a TFR of 2.1 to balance that out. This is a number you have to remember. It's the magic TFR. It produces stability, zero population growth. And it's the one that governments are always trying to get the mommies and the daddies in their country to follow. 2.1, the magic TFR, don't forget it. All right, we have a couple more words. The first is life expectancy, which is the average number of years a person is expected to live. Currently, Japan has the highest life expectancy at about 84 years. And that means that the average Japanese citizen will live to the age of 84. The country with the lowest life expectancy right now is Chad, which is a very poor country in Africa where the average citizen will die at age 50. All right, the last statistic, infant mortality rate, or IMR. For every 1,000 children born in a country, the infant mortality rate is the number of them that will die before they turn 1 year old. Infant mortality rates are highly correlated with healthcare. The highest infant mortality rate right now is in Afghanistan, which is another extremely poor country like Chad. In Afghanistan, out of every 1,000 children born, 110 of them die before they turn 1. And the lowest IMR right now is again in Japan, which has great healthcare and where out of every 100 children born, every 1,000 children born, 2 of them die before they turn 1. All right, you just learned a lot of statistics. Go back and look at the ones you starred and focus on those especially. The rate of natural increase and the total fertility rate. Review the objectives, and if you don't know the answer to any of them, rewind the video and look again. I will see you in class. Bye, students.